One of the things I actually got my undergrad in physics, and I was an undergraduate physics student, so I've actually been a student in the classes that Agnes explained, and I was also got my master's degree in physics, so I was a TA in these classes. So I really congratulate you on what you've done. When my experience in those classes, although it was a long time ago, was not nearly the experience that your students are getting, so thank you very much. My presentation is going to be a little bit, I hope, complementary to that, because I teach a class that has 10 sections of about 110 each, and I am frankly standing here telling you I'm embarrassed about how that class is, so I'm not even going to talk about it. Okay, I sat for about an hour with the provost last week talking about that. It's got to be fixed. Okay, so I'm just going to hide that one, right? But I teach a class in this room, okay, that has about 100 or so students, sometimes as low as maybe 60, sometimes up to 130 in 2 different sections, and I teach that every semester. So there are a lot of students in there. And one of the things that I do is I teach that it's not a team effort. Okay, it's me. Okay, and honestly, you know, as one of only 2 NTT instructors in my department, essentially I take on the large classes so that those that are bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars of research can only teach their grad level course or whatever. And it seems to work really well in our department. But one of the things that I'm going to kind of do is maybe complement the presentation that you saw from Agnes, because again, it's smaller sections, 100 versus all of those. But it's also maybe similar to what a lot of you are doing. It's I get to do it on my own without some of the resources that Agnes was talking about. So I'm just trying to get let me set this scenario. In the fall, I'm going to come into this room on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 and teach a class that I'm going to tell you about. And then I'm going to have those students leave and about 70 come in, and I'm going to teach a different materials class to the aerospace engineers. And then they're going to leave, and at 11 o'clock I'm going to have the second section of the materials class in here, again about 100. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to go down the hall and teach a characterization class to my department. And on 3 weeks during that semester, I'm going to go over to HSS at 1 o'clock and teach the class that I'm really embarrassed about. And so my presentation is actually going to focus on how do we save time doing this? How can we do this, do it effectively, but not kill ourselves trying to do this, okay? So what I'm going to talk about is I think the most important thing that you can do to get students to want to learn is to be enthusiastic when you teach it. Okay, if you really act like you're interested in it and it's something that's important to you, the students will understand that. But if you're not, I think the learning suffers. It really, really does. Okay, and so if I look at my teaching, the times when I am not enthusiastic, the times when I know as I walk out of that classroom that I did a bad job, it's usually when I'm almost paralyzed by the amount of work I have yet to do. I have all those papers sitting in my desk ready to grade, and I haven't graded them. I have to go into class and apologize. Sorry I didn't get your exams back to you, whatever. I know I have, this or that. I'm not prepared for the next week or whatever. So once I fall behind, honestly, the learning of the students suffers. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is just share my own experiences on how I've found some things that, just in my experiences teaching here, have really helped me to kind of save time. okay? I've told a couple of people this who've asked me, what can we do to help you, right? Most of you have attended all these things. We understand the pedagogy. We understand that we should have active learning and we should have, pair share, whatever that is. It's just getting the time to put that into the class. The one thing I'm short of, not a good ideas for my class, not technology, it's time, okay? And so that's kind of where I'm gonna do this. So I'm gonna use my Metallurgical Engineering 2110 class. I teach 2 sections every semester, one at 9 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, one at 9, one at 11. The fall is where this class sits in the curriculum of the students I teach. Now, interestingly enough, we talk about service classes. In a class of 100, I may have 2 or 3 metallurgy students. The majority of these students are mechanical engineers. It's required for them, and it's the only materials class that they have. And the others are nuclear engineers, who will have another specifically nuclear materials class afterwards. The other issue here is that the prerequisite for this class is first semester chemistry, Chemistry 1310. And if you've been associated with the orientation, about half our students come in here already have credit for that, and the other half take it their first semester. So I can have freshmen and do have freshmen in the class, and in both curricula, both the nuclear and the mechanical curricula, this class is only a prerequisite for a class that happens in their senior year. So I have mainly sophomores and juniors, but I often have seniors. And so anytime that we sit back and we say, okay, we're going to use, Bloom's, or we're going to use DOK, and we're going to decide whether we're teaching a freshman class or a senior class and at what level that is, it's kind of it's a challenge to teach a class where you have these different levels of background and also the different levels, honestly, of maturity in these students. That's another challenge that I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here, but is there. And so I don't know how many of you have classes where you have different levels in there and different majors, but that's kind of what this is. All right, so these are all ideas that I've stolen, okay? I'm not the original author of any of this. Some of this I have started by getting in touch with EdTech, and I don't know if it's me bothering them so much or whatever, but they changed their name and they moved, but I tracked them down, and then they were IDD and they were somewhere else, and then they changed their name and they moved again, and I tracked them down to the library and the Center for Advancing Faculty Excellence. But these people are fantastic, and you should utilize them all the time, every time. I mean, most of these things come from them. One of the things I did was this homework. Okay, most of us know if we give frequent assignments and we challenge the students and we get the feedback back to them quickly, that they'll be more successful. Okay, so I have in this class about 23, 24 homework assignments over the course of the semester, so about 2 a week. They're about 25 questions each. I'm here by myself, so they're multiple choice. Okay, they're multiple choice questions, which previous to this handed a piece of paper out. My predecessors, who I learned from teaching this class, would hand it out before the class, and as you presented the material in class, the students would actually be filling out the homework, answering the questions. And then the next lecture, they would bring them back. My brilliant idea, so that they didn't disturb the class, was to put a table in the back and a little box and say, throw your homework in there, and then we'll have the next lecture. Until about halfway in the semester, a student came up to me after class and said, you do know that students are coming in the door and just grabbing a couple of those homeworks and then filling their own out and then putting them all back in the box. And so then I had to bring the box up to the front of the room and make everybody stare at me and hand in their homework. And then it was a disaster to grade, right? And I had to hire graders and everything. It's now on Canvas. The multiple choice questions are on Canvas, and they're speed graded. Is there anybody here who doesn't know about Canvas Speed Grader? Okay, So when the students do their homework and they finally answer all the questions, and they don't have to answer them all in one sitting, they can go away and come back. But when they hit submit, they know their grade. They know which questions they got right, they know which questions they got wrong. But even more important to that, but than that, to me anyway, is the fact that when I look at that, so we had a homework in this class due on Sunday, that I can look at that class 15 minutes before the next lecture. I can see how the students did, okay? And I can look at each question and make sure that 99 or 100 or 100% got it right. And then when I scroll through this and I'm looking at how they did on the questions, I said, well, wait a minute, only 87% of them got it right. Maybe we need to go over that at the beginning of class, right? And there's an 89%. Here's one where we didn't understand. We had to convert from Celsius to Kelvin and then back to Celsius again, and so there were some issues there. So we had to talk about it. But I get this instant analytics that I share with the students, okay? And we can figure out where there's a disconnect and get additional information to them before we go on. So this has been fantastic to me. I first of all thought, okay, I'm being lazy by putting my homework into Canvas and having it speed graded, right? And the students won't appreciate it. They love getting the answers back immediately, and I love the analytics part of it, okay? Now, do students do this as a group project? Probably, at least some of them do, you know, and since it's homework that you know, is just going to prepare them. I reinforce what we do in class and prepare them for the exam. I'm fine with that. Okay, I'm willing to let that go. The exams. This is where I give exams to up to 130 people. So imagine sitting here for 50 minutes, taking a 50-question multiple choice exam with that little desk in your lap. Okay, this is not a good space for that, but it's my space, it's what I have, okay? So one of the things that I do is, this is the exam I'm giving in here tomorrow at 9 and 11. It comes in these 4 Easter colors, and each one of these is the same exam, but with the questions in a little different order or the answers in a little different order, so none of the answer sheets look the same. Well, the colors are here so I can tell as I pass them out that no two people sitting next to each other have the same exam. Once the students figure that out, sometimes I print them in white because this is the answer sheet. Okay, now it's a little bit awkward to take on that little sheet. So what they're going to do is tear the answer sheet off and then just have the question sheet. And some students will circle all the answers they choose and then transfer them to the answer sheet. Some put them on here as they go, okay? But this is a development from Professor Nick Libre, who has saved me hundreds of hours of grading, okay? So this is not a Scantron. This is an app that Professor Libre has developed that when I get done with this exam, I have the students submit their answer sheets and their question sheets separately. They have they're assigned a 3-digit code that they put here that identifies that, and on the back of their sheet they have to write their name and their 3-digit code so I can marry their answer sheet back to their question sheet. But I put these in our scanner. I hit scan. I take the scanned pieces, put them in the app, and I can give an exam tomorrow. I have 150 or 60 students in the total in the 2 sections, and I'll have their scores posted to Canvas by 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Okay, that's fantastic. That saves me a lot of time. Yeah.
What's the difference then between that and a Scantron?
I don't have to pay for it. I design the question sheets myself. I honestly don't have a whole lot of experience with the Scantron, but the app allows me to group the questions into categories and see how the students did not only each question, but in the categories. And I think this is fantastic. So when I get ready the next lecture to hand the assignment back, what I can do is I can take the question sheet, I can take the answer sheet unmarked, staple them back together, and put them up here on that table and say, come get it, which is almost FERPA proof, not quite. But I print out the scoring sheet, which tells the student for every question whether they got it right or wrong, and if they got it wrong, what the right answer is. But if I staple them back together like this, that's not in view of all the other students picking up their exams. Okay, so that's how I turn them back. And it's really quick, and it happens before class. I don't have to take class time handing out exams or anything like that. Okay, and each student gets that feedback of how they did, what they got right, and what they got wrong. Okay, so I think this is fantastic. And again, it saves me a whole lot. I also will let you know that I do hold a review session the evening before the exams. I don't have a format or presentation or anything. I will just be in here in this room from 6 to probably 8 or 8:30 tonight, just answering questions. Yes?
So back to the, when you're returning the scripts and the answers, you staple each person's answer script back to the questions they answered with a copy of the right answer?
Yeah. So if they got it right, the app that Nick has developed just circles it in green. And if they got it wrong, it circles it in red, but it circles in blue the correct answer. And I don't do any of this. The magic app that Nick has developed does it. I mean, I have to make a key of the right answers. But it's fantastic, okay? And holding the review session, I don't know that students learn a lot in the hour or two that we spend less than 12 hours before the exam, but I do think it makes them feel more confident going into the exam. I also, and I think I'll do this another one, I record all of my lectures and I also record the review session. Somebody in EdTech IDE Cafe suggested that why don't you record the review session for students who couldn't be there on Tuesday night because some people have common exams, right? They can't be there. And I said, well, we're not finished until 9 p.m. and the exam is at 9 a.m. the next day. And when I posted that first Panopto and came in the next morning and looked at how many students had looked at that overnight, I was amazed. But they do, okay? And so I think that that's also very valuable, both having the review session and posting it. I record my lecture not in advance, but just live with what is called Panopto. Those of you who maybe don't know that. Sorry. So on the home page of the class, there's just a link over here to Panopto recordings. And so every lecture I do, the recordings are not me. They're the slides with my voice over it. I put a microphone on and just record my voice as the slides are going up. But that's the reason that I use this thing because I can point at the screen and I can grab that little laser pointer in PowerPoint and everything that's up here on the screen gets recorded. I also don't write on the board because that doesn't get recorded. I put a piece of paper under the doc cam and write on it so that, again, that shows up there. Everyone can see it, and it gets recorded. Okay? So I just do one of these every day. If I should happen to have to miss class, okay, then I can always take the recording from that class last semester and post it and say, sorry, or in classes I only teach one section of, sometimes I forget to hit record or the microphone doesn't work or whatever. So I have a backup if you do this over multiple semesters. Right now, I record the 9 o'clock section of this and go edit it at 10 because I have that time available this semester and make sure it's good. And if it's not, I can do it again at 11. I have a backup, but in the fall I won't have that option. But I strongly suggest you do that. It allows students who happen to miss class for a variety of reasons or just don't come to actually look at it. It also allows students, especially the students who English isn't their first language or didn't grow up in Cincinnati, Ohio and understand this accent, to go and play it at their own pace, at their own speed, go back, play it at 2x or 3x and make me sound like a cartoon character, whatever they want to do, but it allows them to review it at their own pace. So I think that that's a really important point. But again, I had to train myself, first of all, not to use a laser pointer, to use this, and also not to write on the board, to write on the doc cam because it got recorded. So, but it, again, saves a lot of time. It saves a lot of emails of, hey, in lecture, when you said this, the students train themselves to just go back and watch the recording and catch that. Okay. So, just like now, I stand up here and talk a lot. I have some slides and graphs and whatever to show them. One of the things I'm starting to incorporate, and one of the things I get from mid-semester feedback and from end-of-semester feedback, is the class needs to be more interactive. Chairs are really comfortable. You have a monotone voice. I'm going to go to sleep. Okay? What I've done to make this easy on me and save time is come up with 2 or 3 questions for each lecture that I put into a little quiz, a little multiple choice quiz, sometimes short answer, but usually multiple choice. And then if it turns out that as I present the material for the day, I've got 10 minutes left at the end, I'll say, get out your phones, connect to Canvas, and then I'll come over here and publish the assignment, which will then make it live for them, and it's only available for 10 minutes. And I encourage them, use your notes, use the people next to you, form a team, I don't care, but just put your answers in. Yes?
Do you find that all students now have a device that allows them to go online immediately?
Yes. So for a while, maybe 4 years ago, one of my big requests to IT was, can I have a jammer so I can silence my classroom so students aren't on their phone? Okay, so I thought it was a distraction, and I would tell them a story about opening their laptops in class and they couldn't concentrate, and so they'd open a chat window or open their mail and their girlfriend's breaking up with them and it's all caps and everybody behind them is reading this and distracted. But anyway, yes, now I've been doing this for 3 years and they all have something to do that. Occasionally, and it was more prevalent 3 years ago, now I haven't had this happen in 3 semesters, but a student will say, I don't have, and I say, there is a CLC down the hall there, there's a CLC, it's open for 10 minutes, so just go into one of the CLCs and log in. And there are 3 CLCs in this building, so it's a little bit easier. Yes?
How different is this quiz to the clicker questions?
The difference is they don't have to buy a clicker. All the students have a phone, pretty much. I mean, that's the question, right? They have some device, either a tablet or a phone with them so that they can log into Canvas. Most of them have the Canvas app on their phone. I don't want to make them buy a clicker, okay? Especially if they didn't, the freshmen may have one already from some of their other classes, but the upperclassmen don't need one, and I'd hate for my class to be the one where they had to rent a clicker for a semester. Now there are better, I'll admit, ways to do this. And I know Professor Libre uses Kahoot in his classes, and now he's got a new app where the students can collaborate and form teams and race cars and everything else, and I'm training on it, but I'm not there yet. I'm an old dog learning new tricks, but something that will break it up, something that allows them just locally to collaborate is something that will really help.
How many attempts do you allow in your questions?
Just one.
How do you account for students with special needs in your class?
So right now, what I try to do with this in class is only do it for the last 10 minutes, which should give them 20 minutes if they really need it, but I don't know what other classes they have. And I talk to the students who give me accommodations and extra time about this and say, let me know if you're having problems getting, the answers in time. I haven't had that problem yet, but I'm sure it'll come someday. But right now, it's always at the end of class. So it's not like I say, okay, you've got 5 minutes to do this quiz, and then I close it and start again. That could, I envision, cause problems. Yes, definitely. So the other contrasting thing between this that I'm explaining and what Agnes was talking about is that I don't have a recitation and I don't have a lab. I have 3 lectures a week. And this is teaching students about materials. And I would love to have a lab, okay, but I don't. And so what I try to do then is go out and find videos that we watch in class that explain the concepts, okay? But again, I all the training I've had and all the things I go to, what's the attention span, right? And so when I play a video, it's I try to find something that interests the students. So recently, we've talked about in our materials class something like how can you, if you had a paperclip, and I give them this thought experiment, if you had a paperclip, you can unbend it into a straight wire again. That's how it started, okay? It's a ductile metal. Metals are ductile because the atoms can move and rebond without breaking. If you tried that with a glass fiber, it's going to break, okay? And so we talk about that. How does this work? Well, there's these little defects that march around there, and we talk about, and all the textbooks say, it's like a caterpillar, okay? Just moving a little bit, but eventually it goes from here to there. And so one of the things that I do is say, okay, well, let's talk about this. So here's the video. Sorry, Malcolm's not voiceless right now. Let's try him again.
All right, so the caterpillar analogy is slowly moving particles one by one again on the floor page. Here's a good analogy of caterpillar.
This is why you have grad students, by the way, because I'm not doing this.
See how I'm slowly moving to the end? Only moving one part of my body at a time? That's how it's done.
Okay, so those kind of things they'll watch. Okay, so you have to find that kind of stuff. And then as much as I can, I try to have demos in class that, again, can relate to the material we're talking about, but don't require a lot of time or a lot of things. So this is one of my favorites. So we can bend metal without breaking it because and I have some videos of that. Who wants to bend metal? Who's feeling really excited about this? Come on, I need somebody to do this. I know how to do this, Agnes. Okay, so what I want you to do, what Agnes is going to do, is without putting this on her knee or anything, so you're going to grab both ends and bend it into the St. Louis arch shape. So we're going to bend the metal. Okay? So copper's fairly ductile. We can do this with our own hands. We don't have to get a big press or anything. What we've done is we move dislocations through here. This atoms right now pulled apart in tension. These are in compression. All the energy you just put in here is stored right there. But there's a lot more of those defects in there. You just made the atoms go all out. Let's bend it back. It's not going to go. Okay, thank you. And I usually give this as a souvenir because I can't bend it back. But anyway, this is called strain hardening. The more you've seen the blacksmith hit things on the hammer, the more deformation we do, the stronger it gets. If you take that paper clip and keep bending it, eventually it's going to shatter. It gets so hard. Okay, and it's a pretty simple demonstration, but you can't get this back to that shape because the properties have changed a lot just by bending it. Okay. I know one of the other demos that I'll do, I didn't start the doc cam, is when we talk about stainless steel, we talk about the fact that we can take iron and carbon and make steel, which is really strong, but then it'll rust. And so what we do in this kind of stuff is, I said, I got these spoons out of my silverware drawer, and trust me, there's no silver in my silverware drawer, right? And they are all from, and if we, again, I'm trying to do the students, and I don't need the lamp. These are all from different manufacturers, and you can read on the back, you know, who the manufacturer is. And they're all stainless steel, but actually the best stainless steel is iron and carbon with chrome in it. And chrome makes it stainless or not rust, but nickel makes it really good, okay? If you put nickel in there, so the more nickel you have, the better it is, and the more expensive it should be. But how do you know if you have good stainless or not? Well, it turns out that nickel also makes steel non-magnetic. Okay? So I tell them, if you go in Bed Bath & Beyond, you're buying new silverware, go to the refrigerator magnets, go to that silverware, and if it jumps up and sticks to the magnet, you don't have a whole lot of nickel in there, right? But if for the same price you can get something like this, which, by the way, I didn't buy, we got for our wedding, and it's, imagine that, the spoons are still around 40 years later, but anyway, so these are the good ones, and it's a real simple test, and it kind of helps reinforce the fact that the more nickel you have, the better the stainless is. And so that's kind of, those are the kind of things that I've been able to incorporate, that just, because we can't go to lab, I can't take 100 students down to the lab and do something like that. All right? I think that's all I have.